Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. Dr. Z, who do we have with us today?
We have the lovely Sabrina Runbeck. She is just a rising star in healthcare and helping healthcare startups with their marketing. So I'm excited to hear and just do this interview with you, Sabrina. But you totally reinvented yourself because you are currently still working as a physician associate in cardiothoracic surgery. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
still doing a little bit and then start backing up from clinical medicine and focusing more on how do I be a contributor because I know my true purpose really is creating opportunity for others.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Let's get it rolling. Where do you want to start? Can't wait to hear all about it.
Yeah, what direction do you want it to go into? I think in healthcare, we all create our own journey, and it actually, you can say it's manifesting. You can say it's we simply choose the right path for ourselves, and then morph into something that's beautiful and something perhaps we never even thought about that's possible.
Well, you can start from the very beginning, maybe, because I think I've heard you talking about this about, you're of a Chinese heritage, and that kind of prestige of going into healthcare, and how then did that play out when you realized that it wasn't so fulfilling to you?
Right. I'm the only girl in the family, only child as well. So all the boy cousins, the traditional way of getting a good job, marry off, serve your elders, and have your kids, life is good. Now, that type of facade, I think many of us have that struggle in what other people seems to be a good life versus how do we truly define what success fulfillment means to us. Now, I had a lot of those conversations with friends and family since, but back then, I think I was just in a little busy bee. We took a bank personality test before this by Dr. Z's request, and just like many other assessments that I personally have gone through and learned about myself, is that no matter what, we have our own definition. But when we allow other people or the environment drive us, taking on those input, and then we start having that internal struggle of who we are, what's it meant for us in the world, what does it mean for me, right? And some of us can never get out of that struggle of because we have that pleaser tendency or the victim tendency, right? And therefore I was on a journey where 2 bachelors, 2 masters later, I love medicine, and I had a externship in college and high school that's in medicine, learn about different fields, and I still like surgery. So I ended up getting a degree and went on for a heart and lung because at the time I just thought number one disease in the world is heart disease, and the intricacy of that type of work really is life and death and is prolong people's life expectancy. But that also carry out a weight of things seems to be happening really fast, and you have to be keeping up with that. So I think when I was young, right, you come out of school, you have all this energy, you feel like no matter what you do, you can figure things out. Until I was working 80 plus hours. On top of that, we all know we take calls. And now I was take calls pretty much every day because they didn't really tell me, right? I didn't have a real sense how big the team is. And I was really with the old school doctor who truly believed that nobody else should take care of your patient but your own. And that sense of responsibility and quick to respond, it definitely helped me to process information faster, download faster. But it also means a lot of people that I train got out of that revolving door very quickly. And so it's the environment that we created. So I had a moment of start getting sick a lot. I realizing that no matter how many letters we have behind our name, how well we trained ourselves, how nice this life, quote unquote, that we build for ourselves is just a
Mm-hmm.
facade until we can step back and to say, is this really what I meant to be? Or is this what other people want me to be? So I transition into more of that management, operational business side of medicine, thinking about how do we hire? How do we create better teams? Is that a true alignment? What does that really mean, right? Where do we need things to go? And also taking up on committee members to be CME committees, are speaking in hospital-wise, local, state, and then national level of conferences, and also international. And then a few years back, everyone, when you start going to become a professional speaker, of course, everyone's like, where's your stage, right? How do you grow your own voice? And that's when I started my own podcast called Writer's Edge as well. And luckily, we partnered up with the Women's Empowerment Channel. Now we're on Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV as well. And so there's many things kind of evolved into where I am now to realizing my balance. It is creating opportunities for others. What that means is giving the right people with the right talent and the right
Mm-hmm.
resources, the right innovations in the healthcare space to shine and get them visible, show them the credibility, and help them to partner up with a high level, strategic level of partners to help them accelerate in a much authentic and easy.
Mm-hmm. It sounds to me like you, man, I'm shocked that we did the code. You said, you mentioned the bank code, which is the personality coding, and you put knowledge last. You've got all these accolades. I'm surprised that you did that. But irregardless of that, let's talk about when you go back to that beginning, put it under the microscope a little bit further, the beginnings of when you recognized I'm not really doctor material. Maybe you are. I'm not saying that, but I'm more of a business. You figured out, it seems to me like you figured out that you were more suited for the business side of doctoring, right? And now all of a sudden you're in that area. You're helping tons of people with figuring out, which doctors don't always make the best business people, right? They don't have that business vernacular. Most of the time what they want to do is they want to help their patients. And oh, I got to be a business person, and a lot of them struggle with that. So talk about how that all you started. You mentioned it some, but let's go deeper into that. How you saw the burnout, you were getting sick, you knew you had to make changes, and you didn't really like what you were. This happens for a lot of doctors. You didn't really like what you were doing, and now you're like way more passionate, and you're like, I'm in the right spot. So let's go there.
Yeah, it's that shift. I think we are
Yes.
trained to be good at being detectors to figure out what's wrong with people. So the mindset has sometimes been shifted in what's wrong. Instead of what can we just simply solve. Now, we are trained to also be really good at solving problems. But the focus has so much on what's wrong first, then what can we solve. So now they can be the best clinician they ever are, helping people transition into different phases, seeing the desperation from the patient and the family, and then change their life going to the next level. However, when you switch the hat to become a business owner, means if you start running an organization, if you opened up multiple of your, even just one, or you became an innovator because you saw the problem in health, you found the solution, and you found the
Mm-hmm.
right talent to build that solution into a digital technology, a wearables, a medical pharmaceutical options, no matter what that is. That is about how do you grow consistently, because no longer people because you are who you are. And nowadays
Mm-hmm.
in healthcare, just because you have a clinic, if people don't know about you, They can go down the street to see someone else. They can go on a telemedicine to see anybody in the whole country. Doesn't
Right.
have to be you. So if a competitive edge has come into the play to say, well, now you have to wear a different hat. Now, this hat is not just a leadership hat. It's not just about who do you have on board, right? And then knowing it's the right talent in the right moment with the right support. That's one bucket in business. So we call that people and culture. And then you have one bucket in the middle is visibility and communication, which means how do you spread your message, your stories, your benefits to your ideal patients, clients? That's marketing. And then how do you have that amazing client journey for them to convert to a true client and they wanted to stay with you? That's really sales. And then how do you get your message out even more to build that credibility, more new eyeballs getting into your platform? And those people who know you actually have that nurturing. It's about PR, right? Both and reputation management. And then the last thing is how do you create genuine relationship for the higher level of partnership? Means partner with other larger organizations, community, and teams for them to refer clients back to you, not always going for the B2C round, but creating this high level of network and support. So that's one. And then the last thing that most people are missing is that system and protection. Without a right system, things falls apart. So under that system protection, they also need to know, first, you should really get someone who's genius in financial structure and financial projection, being your accounting, CPA, bookkeepers. And sometimes for innovators, it's about funding. But just because you have funding, if you have no other structure in place, as we say, the people culture, the communication, and also legal compliance, right? It's not going to be enough just to have funding and build something and run with it. So within the system structure, besides accounting, it's your legal, and then IT infrastructure, right, to make everything very efficient and keep track of everything. And then it's about your project management, chief of staff person who are genius in operation to keep everything at flow, everything on time, knowing the right budget for whatnot, right, keep track and moving forward. So when we're not thinking about business in these major 3 domains of 12 detailed category, that's the downfall. Is they only see this one goal, they're running for it, and they don't see how everything is intertwined. And if you don't have things in place to have the solid foundation and build on those foundation, it's not going to be sustainable or profitable.
Right.
That's interesting. And I'm guessing that it was probably a similar journey for you because it looks like maybe you started out in the marketing piece of it. But then as you grew and you evolved, did you find that you needed to help them get these other resources to fortify these other pillars for them, for the business itself?
Yeah, so
Or did you
I actually
kind of know that?
You're right. So I think all of us, when we start in business, we are very unclear what that is, right? We have a problem we know we can solve. We have a tangible, let's say, a program, a tangible device of some sort, or sometimes people build softwares. But whatever that is, I think same thing. I started by, I know the problem, I have this. But then the confusion goes, how many different marketers, business strategists gonna want to tell you different way to do things? And actually, because they don't talk to each other, they just think they are the best, right? Sometimes creators can be that way. Oh, we're the best solution. But when you actually don't have the knowledge of all these other pillars, you don't have a full picture of what to do moving forward. So then you can get really confused. And so a lot of the founder level or business owner level I work with, they did a trial and error. They made something work. They just keep grinding at it. And then they start wondering, why am I not able to get more traction? Why am I hit a plateau really quickly? Or how come I got many validations from XYZ, but people don't really want it? I'm not making revenue off these, right? And it's because we're getting too overwhelmed by advices from people that don't talk to each other and they are not experts on all the pillars. So the way that I actually started was helping people to be more effective, play at their peak performance, and gain time back to be more productive. But what I realized is just because I can gain time back, help them organize, help them processing information, that's not enough. They have to come with knowledge to know what to do first. And so what I used to do should be the very high level. They already have the best structure. They have the foundation. They're already moving forward. We just need to meet these different system shift, mental shift, and enlightenment shift for them to get to the next level. But what they actually need is the core foundation. And then I also realize when I work on board members or different companies, they start seeing, well, you have multiple talent. Why don't you just do X, Y, Z, A, B, C all at the same time? Which we don't like that, right? That's how people get burned out. It's we play outside of our natural talent that we don't like to play in. That's why I also created how I run my incubator now for health tech companies, as well as any community that I'm helping to build or boards that I'm putting together for other companies. Is all go back to who are you 12? How are these 12 domain of these leaders, right? How are they really intertwined with each other? It's no longer just based on skills anymore. And it's about we are assessing like what you guys doing, personality test, intuitive test, body of 9, which is like who you're born with, your physical body, and performance testing. So we already know that all of us are very much gelled with each other, and we're the expert in our own domain, which we're going to take ownership in building in this domain and be able to help each other out, because your marketing message needed to be aligned with your PR, need to be aligned with how much budget the financial set for you so you don't go over. And then your client relationship manager need to know how are you saying to everyone, and then also help with the sales manager to create that pipeline to make sure everyone actually stay with you and congruent, right? So even though there are 3 separate major domains, but everybody is truly intertwined with each other and built on top of each other.
Wow.
Holy coal in my head, like going around and around and around. There's a lot going on here. So I'm thinking, if trying to put myself in the position of people that are just starting out, they see you, they see what you've accomplished. They're like, wow, how do I, it's that classic from the movie where, what's her name's faking the orgasm. The lady says, I want what she has, right? That kind of concept. So with that said, let's think about the fundamentals. And so for somebody just starting out, let's go ground zero, like go back and think about back to the beginning of when you first started for a company that's just getting going. Maybe you got some examples of companies what do you talk to them mostly about in the beginning with setting that solid foundation?
And could I also add, maybe you can talk to the business, but also with like an individual. I don't know if that's like 2 separate
Let's
questions.
table that for now, because we're already getting really complicated here. We need to keep it simple. Think in terms of the people that are just starting out. They're thinking about, they haven't even started, right? Just think about the people that you've worked with and they're just getting cooking. They don't have all this infrastructure and all this stuff. Yeah. Where do they start?
They just have an idea.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm actually not the best person to talk to about just idea. I actually don't work with anybody who are just an idea. When I talk to those people, what I send them is you needed to find financial, legal, and marketing. Because marketing technically is a business strategist, who can put things into impact. So to start with, I always say you can't do everything by yourself. You need to find two other partners that to create a triad. So if you think about any structure, a triangle is the strongest shape. And what the triad really means is know your place, know your talent, and find other two people that can collaborate. So when you start, it's the triad. We always say, based on communication, there are three different types. You have the emotional talker, right? They're just storyline, really grabbing your attention, and they want you to hear them out. But sometimes it's hard for them to get to a point. And then you have the
The nerd.
physical, right? Like the physical people like myself, very tactful, organized. What's the goal? What's the thing? Let's get to it. Like, what are you really telling me, right? And then you have the spiritual uh, communicator, where they're very holistic, very visionary. Sometimes none of us really understand until you have the right interpreter to break it down into something tangible. But you do need all three type of people in there. And the three type of people also are breaking down by three level of someone who has the vision, who can see the novelty, or if something is already done, it's not done in a way that you think you can solve it. And then you need someone who are more play into that emotional side of them to turn the idea and vision into impact and income. If it's just impactful and no revenue generating, you're playing house. It's a hobby. And the more income you're generating, the more impact you can create, because then you have more funding to go back to the company to go somewhere with it. And then the last thing is, once you have the idea validated and your impact creator, then you go into someone who's really good at execution, because then they can take big strategies, break it down into something tangible. Now you can hand off to your 12 team members to actually do what needs to be done and set deadlines, markers, roadmaps to create something tangible and deliver the services that you promise, and connect with the right clientele to make that great connection. Now, in the beginning, sometimes it's just that you have the core three. The core three does everything, but the core three might have talent interchangeable in 12 different areas, not in a primary domain. That's okay. You just have to be one person that in charge that one domain, and then helping each other out, because again, right, interchangeable. So in the beginning, it's about finding the right co-founder per se that can help you, instead of feeling like I have to just put everything of my life into this, and feeling actually can be a lonely path when people are not there to support you, or if they're not really in it with you, and just because they're also in healthcare, just they might not understand, right? And then the next really is about financial projection. How much it would cost you to even run the business? Would it be even applicable to the circumstances you have now? Do you have savings, fundings you saved up to launch it? Do you need it to get a loan? Whatever that is, right? You have to figure out the basics. And then you have to have legal involved to make sure the company is formulated in the right way. And then when you divide it up percentage wise with your team, it's fair for you. And then everyone understand the back and commitment of things. And then you feel like even, right? Not like unfair. Oh, you did too much, you did too little, having those arguments later on. Then take it to a high level strategist. The three of you probably can do strategic conversation, but if you don't have that business building experience, then you do need to hire someone to say, how can you build it in a way that won't burn you out, that align with who you are, your true mission, and then creating those messages, stories, and brands that matches who you want to be, how you want to show up in a world with this product or services that you created.
Okay. So with all of that said, is that more so where you come in, where you network with people and you start talking with them and they're like, man, I think I could really use your help? Is that more of your sweet spot?
Yeah, my sweet spot is after people have developed something, right? They have couple clinics going, or they have a product services that they have a minimal viable product that has at least been piloted, right? And now it's
Mm,
about, wow, we need to really build to the next level, or we want
yeah.
more people to really use it and share with us their experience, how we can serve these particular subset of group of, perhaps it's the workers, perhaps it's the end user, the patients, or perhaps our
Mhm.
different organizations. No matter what that is, then we help them to then bring on the 12 level of high executive board to assess where are
Yeah.
they, where they need to be, and how to do that to create those pathways for them. Then they no longer confused on where do I even start, right? I learned
Yeah.
from all these resources, and people get a lot of free resources, then they can become even more confused about what it is, because most of the time they only get small fraction of feedback. And again, even they get the feedback, it's not cohesively tapping into everything else.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you're helping him with the streamlining, um, the taking everything to that next level, creating the efficiency, really getting that business to the next level that they need to go to. They've got it out of the, out of the ground. They've got a solid foundation, but now they really need to. Efficiency is like top of the list, right? Because if you don't have a well-oiled machine, you got nothing, right?
Exactly. And then also everyone wants efficiency, but sometimes they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're lacking. And so for us to come in to say, now we have a full board of experts that are very much assessed ourselves. And now we're going to bring all the knowledge not only to you, but we're going to amplify who you are as a founder, as a leader, as an executive as well. So you understand yourself better, and you understand what need to be filled for the gaps that perhaps those are the things that preventing you moving to the next step, even though you're working on ABC, but really is XYZ that needed to fill the bucket first for the other things to play out. And then I also know I'm I'm best in business partnership development and PR,
Mhm.
leveraging podcasting, speaking, amplify each speaking engagement for more visibility, for more sharing and nurturing. But I don't like to be pulled in multiple different domains, even though I have neuroscience and performance science background. I can look at those things and help you and knowing what assessment you need, but I like to have the experts in talent optimization to take those things on to really work with the right people and their team. And same thing, part of that relationship building is marketing, but I also don't like to formulate the taglines, the whole story. There are people who are better at doing that, but I like to help you to be more confident on camera, to knowing when you have a bigger story, to take it down to these main things. So when you are able to speak, to communicate, people can sense the result, the story, the struggle, and the wins. And we take those assets to change it into different formats. So you don't have to worry
Mhm.
about, what do I share, right? How do I seem like I'm adding value to people? Because we know if it's just purely social media, it's not going to help us, right? People check
Yeah.
you out on LinkedIn, on whatnot, just so they can understand who you are as a person. And same thing with your website. But by what it is alone, it's not driving that much traffic, but you still have to have some kind of presence because people are guaranteed looking you up. And what's
Yeah.
converting in the highest level by research is that personal word of mouth. So if you know how to plug yourself into the right circle with the right people and
Right.
understand how to create that win-win situation in any relationship,
Yeah.
really the best and only way to accelerate 30% higher than any other marketing strategy.
And do you find that that is a struggle, especially for the high knowledge types? You think the nerdy type, maybe, you know, like they're not the one being out front, being comfortable on camera,
The
maybe
introverts.
communicating. Yeah. I mean, is that a major struggle that you see, or do you see other things too?
You're right. And some people are like to stay in their cocoon. They like to stay behind the scene.
Yeah.
And we say that anybody can train to bring out that connector in them and can
Right.
flourish. Because if you look at my videos from, 4 years ago, I'm so rigid. And sometimes people don't even know how to look into the camera, and then they're everywhere else, right? And then like staring down, you're like, who are you talking to? If you're someone who's supposed, just like me, right, doing this thing at this corner, it's really awkward for people who are watching you. And it doesn't matter how good the message is at the time, people, when it's video, they want to be engaged. And when it's audio, yes, you have to learn how to be quiet, how to use your
Mm.
vocal dynamic and variety to emphasize things, to slow down and speed up. And not just say we have to retrain ourselves in speech pattern, but you can learn these small things that helps you to stand out a little bit more. And so I came from a singing background. I have a music degree,
Really? Oh,
and
wow.
that helps for sure.
Yeah.
But even with that, when I started, it was still very rigid because you don't know what to do with your body, right? You don't know. A camera is very different from when I'm on stage. When I'm stage, then you can also learn how to use your body, walk purposefully, move purposefully, and standing still purposefully for the right thing. And those can be
Mm.
trained for sure. And for those people who don't want it to be the face of their company, then they can always find someone, right? We talk about the triad. One of your three can be the face of the company.
Right. Developing that stage presence.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm totally with you on that because we met through real estate. And when I first started out, I joined a program for house flipping. And my coaches, they said, you got to get out there. You got to learn how to network. And I met a guy at a Toastmaster event, and he said, yeah, I'm an introvert who's morphed into an extrovert because I had to. And I'm like, that's me too. You have to figure out, as the leader of the company, you have to figure out what your strengths are. And you have to say, okay, if that's a weakness, like you just said, I got to find somebody to fill that gap, that part that that's not in my expertise or I'm not strong at. Very powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting that you do have a performance background because I mean, I played the oboe. So I have a feel for being on stage. And when I was 10 years old, I did ballet. And so I did enjoy, being on stage and kind of performing. But it is different when you're, especially in a healthcare setting, and you're presenting something, and it's scientific, and people's lives perhaps are at stake. So it is a different level of pressure. Yeah. And so how do you help your clients, maybe to change or reformat, or the reframe it? That's what I was thinking, to reframe that. So
Yeah, great questions. Now I have a media company that do that specifically. So
oh,
we work with people three ways. Either you love to speak, you just wanted to be in front of more people, then we know podcasting is actually the best way. Physical stages, you have to travel, and virtual just doesn't get you as much engagement in conferences versus podcasting, because then we are very much targeting who are the listeners. And when you know the listener and you're already talking in similar round of things that they like to engage with, now of course it's very easy to bring them to your website, your connections, and learn more about you. especially when you're a good speaker. So we do the speaking training and pitching for them. And for those people who have their own show, or they also have speak, what most of the time what they're missing out is, oh, I spoke, I'm done, right? They have the listeners, no, just listen to me and come back. Like, yeah, that's not gonna give you that much, right? That's just like stay in the vortex. Is almost like I build it, someone come. No, right? That's not gonna work. So how do we do that? It's repurpose all the content that you did for that one speaking engagement. And that's also streamlining. You don't even have to think about what to write for social content newsletter to your email list, your website, whatever that is, right? To drive SEO or to drive connection anymore. You have that one talk, convert it into multiple assets. And then we also help you strategize how can you spread them out in the next few weeks to months. So it seems like you're always being featured and captured everywhere. People recognize who you are. No longer just, I believe in this, I see the value, and you should have it, right? And now it's other people see your value, and they are allowing you and recognize you as a subject matter expert to share your amazingness, to share your product services, right? And so we do the get you on stage, speaker training, as well as the post production. And some people already are speaking everywhere. They have a show themselves. Then we just only take care of the post production and visibility amplification part. Some people want us to help them because they either don't have time, they don't have a trained PR agency, or wanted to have a little bit of focus. Then we can take care of the front side. And versus at some level, people just want us to take care of everything just because they don't even have to think about it. They deal with one group and then everything handed back to them, and then they can disseminate in the right format in their own internal system. So that's the agency side. And I also have my own podcast, as I mentioned, the Provider's Edge. So for people who are kind of new to the area, or they've been speaking, but they want to leverage my community of listeners, then I get them on my show and I can do the post production for them as well. And then to show them this is a way that whether they come in as a sponsor or they're an expert speaker, we also give them a speaking spot to show them that how they are getting on other shows, that's what they really need to do for themselves. So if they have their own marketing team and video editor, copywriter, all the things, then you can take care of it, right? As long as you have a good project manager to run the back end, and then it's all good. And if you don't, again, we can help you out. For people who are wanting more than just speaking, just visibility, and really thinking about how they can build a company, their startups as a whole, then we have multiple different areas that we can support them by be qualified for our incubator. Again, as I mentioned, you have to have some minimum viable product things for us to accept you. Or for people who are in healthcare and you're also podcasters, we also have a group to help people to grow their show and give them additional speaking engagements that way as a community. And so it really depends on where you fall, right? The creators have a set of group that they might feel more comfortable to be with versus the health tech people who are that innovator side, and then they can tap into resources of other innovators and our advisors, and they can be more focused on their business acceleration.
Sounds like you have a really good one-stop shop setup for people that are at various, no matter what point they're at. Talk about how you got to this point with this business. Like Zelda mentioned at the beginning of the show, you reinvented yourself. And along the way, what is the one most powerful lesson that you could share with our viewers and listeners that really propelled you forward? Maybe you were at some struggling points and you're like, man, I don't know, did I really make the right decision? But boom, the epiphany hit and it like powered you to that next level.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of learning, self-learning that went on. And one of the big thing I felt that made that pivot was the moment that I had to allow myself just to stop instead of figure another thing out. This didn't work. Let's just figure out more things, but simply just stop and realizing I'm the only person that tossed the rock into the pond that created all the ripple effect. And until I
Mm,
took 100% ownership of that, and then that's difficult, right? We all shift on wings and still have these negative tendencies, what we call impulsive intelligence saboteurs. But the quicker that I recognize that, the quicker I can morph and amplify into who I am truly. Then the best thing I did for myself is start on that self-discovery journey. I did
mm,
anything from human design, from intuitive interpretation to multiple psychological profiling, testings,
mm,
and as well as the body of nine work that I'm doing now, where I become certified to train, where it's an unlike psychology testing, right? Behavior testing is very nurture based influence of
mm,
who we are, right? Body of nine work is based on your physical body, which date all the way back to the Egyptians, tombs, to Asian cultures, where you have nine core different type of physical features, how we draw energy from different region of our body. And when you
mm,
understand that's what we are born with physically, and then you add on to these psychological profile component, then you're like, wow, that opened my eye even more because now I can shift into other natural numbers. Now, because I'm a body of nine, my best talent is, as you were saying, oh, how come your action, right? I pick action for bank, and then the secondary is organizing because that is my what I born with my natural talent. I am the
mm,
one who embodies all the number. I sense the really what's called from the energy perspective. I sense the universe. I'm really good
Mm,
at taking all the information in, and I
mm,
already do, right? That's my natural talent, and figure out what's going on. How do I interpret all the chaos and make some sense out of it? Or when people give me ideas, what have you not seen that I already know is going to happen? So sometimes people come to me, it's like, well, you're stopping us. I'm like, I'm not stopping you. I'm actually helping you to move forward. But if you don't
yeah,
see the downfalls and catch them now to create strategies, then weeks, months, years later, you're going to see that. And it's going to cost you more to fix that time than do it right now. So I'm the big thinker person. And then when I'm
mm,
activated in that sense, now I'm not anxious. Now I'm not stopping myself from moving forward or stopping anybody else, right?
yeah,
And when I know I can shift into other natural number means on interview like that, I need to activate the connector side, right? Which is number 1 to 4, and knowing they're all
mm,
different. So if I can be more in those zones to bring people to the circle to understand how to say and better way to deliver the messages, then your
yeah,
impact amplifies. And so it's not only about learning who you are, your natural gift and talent based on your physical features. And this is actually across culture. People who come in the room, this last weekend, I was at an activation workshop. People are different culture and can be the same number. And when we talk about how we analyze things, how we behave, exactly the same, right? When you're in the
yeah,
same number. And it's amazing to feel that way and to be validated. And when I'm activating other number, the energy is right in there. And then you can feel the different perspective now. Now you understand others better. It's not that they're refusing you or they're being difficult, they're actually just activated in their natural number. But if they're not activated correctly, then yes, they might be inhibited by, let's say, use an example, natural number 6. They draw energy from their chest, and they're really good at creating that tunnel of path for other people. But
mm,
if they're not clear on what to do, or they're not clear about what you're telling them, they shut down. because they feel like they don't have enough
Goes
information.
right
I
over
cannot
their
do that.
head.
Yeah.
Right?
And so you needed them to be activated. And how, if they're so stuck, then you have to activate your own six to be connected with them, to make them
Yeah.
feel the full emotion again. And then they can actually march through and create an amazing pathway for you.
Wow, sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
Wow. Where did the time go? We've just blown through 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Any
Wow, that's
last
really
question
amazing.
before we wrap it up here?
Well, I was just wondering, I mean, I know you've got the patents and the copyrights and all that, but like what has been maybe a really memorable startup idea, invention that has come across your table that you're like, wow, that will be awesome?
I think many things have came across the table, and then at this point I think a lot of things are valuable in different ways. What
Yeah.
I found people really need to stand out for is that they think they're unique, and then when they say they're unique, I'm like, have you saw this company, that company, that company? How are you different from all these other people?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, people really need to do better market research. Even though these smaller company, if they're doing what you're doing, you can learn from their messaging, you can learn from their processing, and truly actually stand out. Because I think everyone has value to share, and you're actually don't feel like they're all your competitors, because at the end of the day, it's hard for us to serve the billions of people in the world. So
Right.
we have to think about where's our region, what's our capacity, and how are we unique in certain set of way that we can just creating impact.
Yeah.
Wow.
True.
You know,
I love that.
my whole thing here is having this conversation with you and you telling us more about all these different things that you've been using to grow yourself. And now you just bam got right after that bank code. And it's interesting because you have to pick the different 4 and put them in 1 through 4. But I think with all the work that she's been doing there, I would bet that there's an advanced assessment you can do, and you get a number for each one, and 25 is the best you can get. I would bet that all 4 of them are pretty high, in the high 20s.
Yeah, that's probably true. And that way, because you said you understand other people.
Yeah.
And then you know how to speak in their code.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that's really a gift. Yeah.
Well, we got to wrap it up here. So tell our viewers and listeners some of the ways, the best ways they could, if they want, man, I got to get in touch with Sabrina. She's got some good stuff going on. She can help me.
Yeah, I always love to have a conversation. If you have something that you created, you want to bounce off ideas to see if myself or my network can be a support for you, or perhaps you can be a referral partner, because I'm always continue to build up my network to see who are the subspecialty experts that I really need to introduce to my network. Happy to have a conversation. You can go to sabrinarunbeck.com/hello to grab a virtual coffee chat. And I'm very active on LinkedIn as well, if you rather to be connected on LinkedIn. But either way, love to have a conversation.
Awesome.
Okay, great. It sounds like you have an affiliate marketing setup. Yes?
Yes, because that's what I always recommend everybody is you have to actually create a high-level business strategist plan, which means a referral programming, because everyone should be validated and fairly compensated for when they thought you as that subject matter expert.
With that said, gals and guys, you want to circle back around because Elliot Rashad, one of our guests who we had on recently, he's all about affiliate marketing. So make sure you check out episode number 23 with Elliot, because that'll help you even more in terms of what we're talking about. With you may be thinking, affiliate marketing, what the heck is that? Number 23, Elliot, you learn all about it. All right, we're going to have to leave it there, Sabrina. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, it was great meeting with you, and just a treasure trove of information that you have shared with our guests. So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah. All right. And as always, thank you in advance.
Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Just thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning and knowing. Yeah. We're thinking and growing and learning and knowing and thinking and growing and learning.